battlefield was quiet, save for the low hum of alien machinery and the distant echo of footsteps crunching over debris. Corporal Ethan Drake adjusted his helmet as he scanned the desolate landscape. A mix of scorched earth and strange crystalline structures that shimmered faintly under an unfamiliar sun. He had been part of humanity's elite strike force, sent to negotiate with the Zorathians, an advanced alien race whose queen ruled her empire from a floating citadel high above their homeworld. Ethan wasn't just any soldier. He was known for his unyielding resolve, sharp wit, and knack for surviving impossible odds. His comrades often joked that if anyone could stare down an intergalactic threat without flinching, it would be him. But today, something felt off. Not in the air or on the horizon, but deep within his gut. It gnawed at him like a persistent itch he couldn't scratch. As Ethan approached the rendezvous point, flanked by 2 other soldiers, he caught sight of them. Towering figures clad in ornate armor, exuding an aura of both grace and menace. At their center stood Queen Valithra, ruler of the Zorathian people. Her presence alone commanded attention. Her elongated frame draped in flowing robes adorned with intricate patterns that seemed alive, shifting colors with every breath she took. Behind her hovered Princess Nyxera, her daughter, who watched Ethan with piercing golden eyes framed by shimmering silver hair cascading down her back. Nyxera wasn't just beautiful. She radiated an ethereal charm that made even hardened warriors pause. Yet Ethan refused to let himself be swayed. He'd seen too many soldiers fall prey to distractions during missions, especially when those distractions came wrapped in elegance and power. So when Nyxera stepped forward, tilting her head slightly as though studying a particularly intriguing specimen, Ethan squared his shoulders and met her gaze head-on. "Why don't you love my daughter, human?" Queen Valithra's voice cut through the silence, smooth yet laced with authority. The question hung there, heavy and unexpected. Ethan blinked once before replying dryly, "She's not my type." A ripple of shock passed through the assembled aliens, though none betrayed emotion more than Nyxera herself. For a moment, her regal composure faltered, replaced by what might have been hurt, or perhaps anger. Ethan didn't care. Love? Romance? Those were luxuries soldiers like him couldn't afford, especially not with someone so otherworldly. Ignoring the weight of Nyxera's glare, Ethan turned back to the queen. "We're here to discuss terms, not play matchmaker," he said firmly, crossing his arms over his chest. His bravado masked the unease bubbling beneath the surface. This mission was supposed to secure peace between humans and Zorathians, not devolve into some cosmic soap opera. Queen Valithra regarded him coolly, her lips curving into a faint smile. "Very well, Corporal Drake. Let us proceed. But know this, my daughter does not take rejection lightly." From the corner of his eye, Ethan noticed Nyxera clench her fists, her delicate fingers glowing faintly with energy. Great, he thought. Just great. As negotiations began, Ethan found himself hyper-aware of Nyxera's every move. Every now and then, she'd glance at him, her expression unreadable. Was she plotting revenge? Testing his resolve? Or maybe, just maybe, still trying to win him over? Whatever it was, Ethan knew one thing for certain. Staying focused wouldn't be easy. Not with a scorned alien princess watching his every step. Back aboard the human cruiser orbiting the planet, Ethan sat slumped in the mess hall, nursing a cup of lukewarm coffee while replaying the day's events in his mind. Around him, the crew buzzed with chatter about the meeting, speculating wildly about the Zorathians' intentions, and Nyxera's obvious interest in Ethan. "You really told her she's not your type?" asked Lieutenant Marcus Kane, Ethan's best friend and occasional partner in crime. Marcus leaned against the table, grinning like a fool. "Man, I don't know whether to applaud your guts or slap you for being an idiot." Ethan shrugged, taking another sip of coffee. "It's not like I had much choice. You think I'm gonna get cozy with an alien princess while we're trying to broker peace?" Marcus chuckled. "Oh, come on. She's gorgeous, powerful, and clearly smitten with you. What's not to like?" "Everything," Ethan shot back. "For starters, she's not human. Second, she's royalty. And third," he trailed off, unsure how to articulate the real reason behind his refusal. It wasn't just pride or duty. It was fear. Fear of losing control, of letting emotions cloud his judgment. Relationships complicated things, and complications got people killed. But Marcus wasn't convinced. "You're scared," he teased, wagging a finger at Ethan. "Admit it. You're scared she'll actually sweep you off your feet." Before Ethan could retort, the ship's intercom crackled to life. "Corporal Drake, Report to the bridge immediately, came the captain's stern voice. Groaning, Ethan pushed away from the table and headed toward the bridge. Whatever awaited him, he doubted it would make his life easier. Sure enough, when he arrived, the holographic display showed footage of Nyxera standing outside the citadel, surrounded by a contingent of Zorathian guards. She held a glowing orb aloft, its light pulsating rhythmically. "She's challenging you," Captain Reynolds explained, rubbing his temples, "to single combat. If you win, they agree to our terms. If you lose—" He hesitated. "I become her trophy husband?" Ethan guessed dryly. "Something like that." Ethan clenched his jaw. Of course, she'd go this route. Pride demanded satisfaction, after all. Still, he couldn't deny the thrill coursing through him. A fight? Fine. He'd face whatever she threw at him. After all, hadn't he survived worse? The arena was vast, carved into the side of a mountain and illuminated by bioluminescent fungi clinging to the walls. Thousands of Zorathians gathered to watch, their murmurs filling the space like a living tide. At the center stood Nyxera, resplendent in battle armor that gleamed like liquid silver. She twirled a spear tipped with crackling energy, her movements fluid and precise. Ethan entered the arena clad in standard-issue combat gear, his rifle slung across his back. As he approached, Nyxera smirked, her voice carrying effortlessly across the space. "Still think I'm not your type, human?" He smirked right back. "Still think you can beat me, princess?" With that, the duel began. Nyxera moved like lightning, darting around him with supernatural speed. Her attacks were relentless, forcing Ethan to rely on reflexes honed by years of training. Sparks flew as their weapons clashed, each strike reverberating through the arena. Despite her agility, Ethan managed to hold his ground, countering her blows with raw determination. At one point, Nyxera leapt into the air, spinning gracefully before bringing her spear down in a devastating arc. Ethan rolled aside just in time, the impact sending shockwaves rippling through the ground. He retaliated with a burst of gunfire, forcing her to retreat momentarily. The crowd roared, caught up in the spectacle. But amidst the chaos, Ethan noticed something peculiar. Nyxera wasn't fighting to kill. She toyed with him, testing his limits rather than aiming to end the duel outright. Why? Did she still hope to prove herself worthy of his affection? Or was she simply enjoying the challenge? Whatever her reasons, Ethan refused to give in. Summoning every ounce of strength, he launched a daring counterattack, disarming her with a swift kick. The spear clattered to the ground, leaving Nyxera defenseless for a moment. Then, with a flick of her wrist, she summoned a sphere of pure energy, holding it poised like a weapon. "Yield," she commanded, her tone leaving no room for argument. Ethan hesitated. Yielding meant admitting defeat, accepting whatever fate awaited him. But surrendering also meant avoiding unnecessary bloodshed. Taking a deep breath, he lowered his weapon and raised his hands in mock surrender. "All right, princess. You win." Nyxera's eyes narrowed suspiciously, as though expecting a trick. But when Ethan offered no resistance, she relaxed slightly, the energy sphere dissipating into thin air. Stepping closer, she tilted her head, studying him intently. "Why did you yield?" she asked softly, her voice tinged with curiosity. "Because," Ethan replied, locking gazes with her. "I've got nothing left to prove." Her expression softened, though only briefly. Without another word, she turned and gestured for her guards to escort him out of the arena. As they led him away, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Days passed, and tensions between humans and Zorathians grew tauter with each passing hour. While official negotiations continued, Ethan found himself increasingly isolated, both physically and emotionally. Rumors spread among the crew about his duel with Nyxera, painting him alternately as a hero or a fool depending on who told the tale. Meanwhile, Nyxera herself remained an enigma, occasionally appearing during diplomatic sessions but rarely speaking directly to Ethan. One evening, as Ethan wandered the corridors of the cruiser, lost in thought, he stumbled upon an unexpected sight. Nyxera materializing before him, her form shimmering into existence as though stepping out of thin air. Startled, Ethan instinctively reached for his sidearm before realizing she posed no immediate threat. "What are you doing here?" he demanded, keeping his voice low to avoid drawing attention. "To see you," she replied simply, folding her arms across her chest. Up close, she looked different, less regal, more vulnerable. "You intrigue me, human. Few would dare defy me as you have." Ethan snorted, Defy you? All I did was tell the truth. Her gaze hardened. Truth is subjective. Perhaps you merely lack imagination. Oh, I've got plenty of imagination, Ethan countered. Enough to picture all the ways this conversation could go wrong. Nyxera smirked, seemingly amused by his defiance. You amuse me, Corporal Drake. More than you realize. She paused, glancing around cautiously before adding, there is unrest among my people. Some believe forming an alliance with humans weakens us. Others see potential. My mother walks a precarious line, balancing tradition with progress. And where do you stand? Ethan asked, genuinely curious despite himself. That, she said, leaning closer until their faces were mere inches apart, is none of your concern. Before Ethan could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Red lights flashed overhead, accompanied by shouts echoing through the halls. Someone or something had breached the cruiser's defenses. Without hesitation, Nyxera grabbed Ethan's arm and pulled him toward a nearby hatch. Come with me, she ordered, her tone brooking no argument. Why should I trust you? Ethan protested, though he allowed himself to be dragged along. Because, she replied, glancing over her shoulder with a wry smile, you don't have a better option. Together, they plunged into the chaos unfolding aboard the cruiser, neither fully trusting the other yet bound by circumstances beyond their control. Whatever lay ahead, one thing was certain. Their fates were intertwined, whether they liked it or not. The breach originated from the engineering deck, where smoke billowed thick and acrid through the narrow corridors. Crew members scrambled to contain the situation, shouting orders and activating emergency protocols. Amidst the confusion, Ethan and Nyxera navigated the labyrinthine passages, dodging sparks and debris as they made their way toward the source of the disturbance. What exactly are we dealing with here? Ethan asked, gripping his rifle tightly as they rounded a corner. Saboteurs, Nyxera replied tersely. My kind. Dissidents who oppose any alliance with humans. Ethan cursed under his breath. Of course, it had to be internal sabotage. Trust issues weren't exclusive to either species, apparently. So, what's the plan, Princess? Fight our way through or sneak past? Nyxera shot him a sidelong glance, her golden eyes gleaming mischievously. Do you always question your allies? Or is it just me? Call it professional skepticism, Ethan quipped, ducking as a piece of falling conduit narrowly missed his head. Besides, last time I checked, we weren't exactly allies. Her lips curved into a faint smile, though it vanished quickly as they reached the entrance to the main reactor chamber. Inside, a group of Zorathian insurgents worked frantically to disable the ship's core systems, their movements methodical and efficient. Armed with sleek, futuristic weaponry, they represented a formidable threat, one Ethan doubted they could overcome alone. We need reinforcements, Ethan muttered, peeking cautiously around the doorway. No time, Nyxera countered. If they succeed, the entire ship will be compromised. We act now. Before Ethan could argue further, Nyxera surged forward, her figure blurring as she unleashed a barrage of energy blasts at the nearest insurgent. Caught off guard, the attackers faltered, giving Ethan just enough time to join the fray. Together, they fought with a synergy neither had anticipated, Nyxera's precision complementing Ethan's brute force perfectly. Despite their efforts, however, the insurgents proved tenacious. One managed to land a direct hit on Ethan, sending him sprawling backward. Pain exploded across his ribs as he struggled to rise, his vision swimming. Through the haze, he saw Nyxera leap into action, deflecting incoming fire with a shimmering barrier conjured from thin air. Stay down, human! She barked, her voice sharp with urgency. Ethan gritted his teeth, refusing to stay idle. Using the chaos to his advantage, he crawled toward a fallen weapon, grasping it just as another insurgent closed in. With a desperate roar, he fired, striking true and eliminating the threat. Breathing heavily, he forced himself to stand, joining Nyxera once more in the final push. By the time the dust settled, the saboteurs lay defeated, their leader captured and subdued. Exhausted but victorious, Ethan leaned against a wall, clutching his injured side. Nyxera approached cautiously, her expression softer than usual. You fought well, she admitted grudgingly, extending a hand to help him up. For a human, Ethan accepted her assistance, managing a weak grin. And you're not half bad yourself. For an alien. Their banter was interrupted by the arrival of Captain Reynolds and a team of reinforcements. Upon seeing the damage, And the unlikely duo responsible for neutralizing the threat. The captain raised an eyebrow. Care to explain what happened here? It's complicated, Ethan replied, exchanging a glance with Nyxera. Complicated indeed. In the aftermath of the skirmish, relations between humans and Zorathians shifted subtly. Word of Ethan and Nyxera's collaboration spread quickly, earning them reluctant respect from both sides. Negotiations resumed with renewed vigor, though underlying tensions remained palpable. For Ethan, the experience marked a turning point, a realization that perhaps not everything fit neatly into categories of friend or foe. Yet questions lingered. Who had orchestrated the sabotage attempt? What did it mean for the fragile peace they sought to build? And most importantly, what role would Ethan and Nyxera play moving forward? As the cruiser prepared to depart Zorathian airspace, Ethan found himself standing alone on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. Behind him, soft footsteps signaled Nyxera's approach. She joined him silently, her presence both comforting and unsettling. "You saved my life," she said finally, breaking the silence. "Why?" Ethan shrugged, keeping his gaze fixed on the horizon. "Same reason you saved mine. Survival. Duty. Take your pick." She studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Perhaps there is more to you than meets the eye. Before Ethan could respond, the ship lurched slightly, signaling the jump to hyperspace. Somewhere beyond the viewport, countless possibilities awaited. Uncertain, unpredictable, and undeniably exciting. Neither spoke again, content to share the quiet moment together. Whatever the future held, they faced it side by side, united by shared battles and lingering mysteries. The days following the sabotage attempt blurred together in a haze of diplomatic meetings, medical checkups for Ethan's injuries, and stolen glances between him and Nyxera. Though they rarely spoke outside official settings, there was an undeniable shift in their dynamic. A subtle tension that crackled like static electricity whenever they were near each other. Ethan tried to ignore it, chalking it up to adrenaline from their shared ordeal. But deep down, he knew better. Something about Nyxera had lodged itself under his skin, refusing to let go. For her part, Nyxera seemed equally conflicted. Her usual air of regal detachment faltered around Ethan, replaced by moments of vulnerability she didn't quite know how to handle. She found herself lingering after negotiations ended, watching him from across crowded rooms, or catching herself smiling at his dry humor during tense discussions. It frustrated her. This inexplicable pull toward someone so stubbornly human, but she couldn't deny its existence. One evening, as the cruiser drifted through the void en route to Earth, Ethan decided to take a walk along the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the glass, a reminder of just how small and fragile humanity truly was. He wasn't expecting company, least of all Nyxera, who appeared silently beside him, her silver hair catching the faint glow of distant suns. "You shouldn't be here," Ethan said without looking at her. "If anyone sees us." "They won't," Nyxera interrupted softly. "And even if they do, what does it matter? We've already proven we can work together." Ethan sighed, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "That doesn't mean we should start fraternizing. People talk, you know. And since when do you care what others think?" Nyxera countered, arching an elegant brow. "You're not exactly known for playing by the rules." "Fair point," Ethan admitted with a wry grin. "But this is different. You're complicated." Nyxera laughed, a low, melodic sound that sent shivers down his spine. "Complicated? Coming from you, that's rich." They fell into a companionable silence, gazing out at the infinite expanse before them. After a while, Nyxera spoke again, her voice quieter this time. "Do you ever wonder what lies beyond those stars? Worlds untouched by war, where beings like us might coexist without fear." Ethan glanced at her, surprised by the wistfulness in her tone. "Sometimes," he admitted. "But then I remember reality. Fear's always going to exist. It's what makes us fight harder for peace." Her golden eyes met his, searching for something unspoken. "And what about love, Ethan? Does fear keep you from that too?" The question caught him off guard, forcing him to look away. Love. That four-letter word carried more weight than any weapon he'd ever wielded. For years, he'd buried himself in duty, using it as a shield against emotional entanglements. But now, standing next to Nyxera, he felt that wall beginning to crumble. "I don't know," he confessed finally. "Maybe." Before either could say more, the ship's alarms blared once again, shattering the moment. This time, the threat came from outside. A massive alien vessel emerging from hyperspace, its jagged silhouette bristling with weapons. Panic rippled through the cruiser as Captain Reynolds' voice echoed over the intercom. "All hands to battle stations. Repeat. All hands to battle stations." Without hesitation, Ethan turned to Nixera. "Looks like our break's over." She nodded, determination hardening her features. "Stay close, human. Things are about to get messy." As they raced toward the bridge, the enormity of the situation hit Ethan like a freight train. Whatever awaited them on that unknown ship, one thing was certain. Surviving it would test every ounce of strength, courage, and perhaps even love they possessed. On the bridge, chaos reigned supreme. Crew members scrambled to man their posts, while holographic displays flickered with data streaming in from the unidentified vessel. Its design was unlike anything Ethan had seen before, part organic, part mechanical, with tendrils of pulsating energy snaking across its surface. It radiated menace, a predator stalking prey. "This isn't Zorathian tech," Nixera murmured, her brow furrowed as she analyzed the readings. "It's something older, ancient." Captain Reynolds slammed a fist onto the console. "Whoever they are, they're hailing us. Patch it through." A distorted image materialized on the main screen. A shadowy figure cloaked in darkness, its voice a guttural growl. "Surrender your vessel and prepare to be assimilated. Resistance is futile." Ethan exchanged a grim look with Nixera. "Assimilated? Sounds like bad news." "Indeed," Nixera replied, her expression grim. "These are the Drakari, an ancient race thought extinct. They consume civilizations, absorbing knowledge and power until nothing remains." Great, Ethan thought bitterly. Just what we needed. Before anyone could formulate a plan, the Drakari ship unleashed a barrage of energy beams, rocking the cruiser violently. Alarms screamed as systems failed left and right, plunging sections of the ship into darkness. Amidst the pandemonium, Ethan grabbed Nixera's arm. "We need to get to engineering. Maybe we can disable their targeting systems long enough to escape." She hesitated only briefly before nodding. "Follow me." Together, they navigated the damaged corridors, dodging collapsing bulkheads and panicked crew members. Along the way, Ethan couldn't help noticing how seamlessly they worked together, anticipating each other's moves, covering blind spots, trusting implicitly despite their differences. It was dangerous territory, both literally and emotionally, but neither had time to dwell on it. When they reached engineering, they discovered the extent of the damage. Consoles sparked wildly, and coolant fluids pooled on the floor. In the center of the chaos stood Lieutenant Marcus Kane, frantically trying to stabilize the reactor core. "Marcus," Ethan called out, rushing to his friend's side. "What's the status?" "We're screwed," Marcus replied bluntly, sweat dripping from his forehead. "The core's destabilizing. If we don't vent plasma soon, we're gonna blow." Nixera stepped forward, her gaze sharp and calculating. "There may be another way." Without waiting for permission, she placed her hands on the nearest console, closing her eyes as streams of light danced beneath her fingertips. Slowly but surely, the system stabilized, the frantic warnings subsiding. "How did you?" Marcus began, staring at her in awe. "No time for explanations," Nixera snapped, though her tone softened slightly. "Now, let's deal with our unwanted guests." Using her connection to the ship systems, Nixera managed to reroute residual power to the cruiser's weapons array. With Ethan coordinating fire teams and Marcus monitoring critical systems, they launched a counterattack that caught the Drakari off guard. Explosions lit up the void as their shots found their mark, crippling the enemy vessel. But victory came at a cost. As the Drakari retreated into hyperspace, the cruiser sustained heavy damage, leaving them stranded in deep space with dwindling resources. Worse still, tensions flared among the crew, some blaming Nixera for attracting such danger in the first place. Ethan found her later in the observation deck, staring out at the wreckage littering the Stars Cape. Her shoulders slumped slightly, a rare sign of weariness. "You okay?" he asked gently, approaching cautiously. She shook her head, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've brought ruin upon us all. My presence endangers everyone aboard this ship." "That's not true," Ethan insisted, stepping closer. "You saved us back there. Without you, we'd be dead." "But at what cost?" Nixera demanded, turning to face him, tears shimmering in her golden eyes. "How many must suffer because of me?" Unable to resist, Ethan reached out, cupping her cheek with his hand. "Hey, Stop beating yourself up. We'll figure this out. Together. Their gazes locked, and for a moment, the universe seemed to fade away. Slowly, almost hesitantly, Nixera leaned into his touch, her breath hitching as she closed the distance between them. Their lips met in a tentative forehead kiss, soft yet charged with emotion. Time froze as they clung to each other, two souls adrift in the vastness of space, finding solace in the most unexpected place. When they finally pulled apart, Nixera rested her forehead against his, her voice trembling. What happens now? Ethan smiled faintly, brushing a strand of her silvery hair behind her ear. We survive. Together. Little did they know, their newfound bond would soon face its greatest trial yet. One that would challenge everything they believed about love, loyalty, and sacrifice. The days that followed their kiss were a whirlwind of emotions, repairs, and decisions. The cruiser limped through space, its crew working tirelessly to patch up the damage while rationing supplies. Despite the chaos, Ethan and Nixera found moments to steal away together. Quiet interludes in empty corridors or late-night conversations on the observation deck. Each moment brought them closer, their connection deepening with every shared glance and whispered word. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Rumors of their relationship spread quickly among the crew, sparking heated debates. Some saw their bond as a symbol of hope, a bridge between humans and Zorathians, but others viewed it as reckless, even dangerous. Tensions flared during meals and shift changes, with arguments breaking out over whether love could truly transcend species, culture, and centuries of mistrust. Ethan bore the brunt of the criticism, his loyalty questioned by those who once called him a hero. You're letting personal feelings cloud your judgment, one officer snapped during a particularly tense meeting. What happens when this infatuation blows up in our faces? Ethan's response was calm but firm. It's not infatuation, and if you think I'd risk the lives of my crew for anything less than something real, then you don't know me at all. Nixera stood by his side throughout, her presence unwavering. She endured snide remarks and cold stares with quiet dignity, refusing to let hostility shake her resolve. When asked why she persisted despite the backlash, she simply replied, "Because he is worth it." Their unity inspired a small but growing faction aboard the ship, those who believed in the possibility of coexistence. Slowly, grudges softened, replaced by cautious optimism. Even Captain Reynolds, initially skeptical, began to see the potential in their partnership. Maybe, he admitted one evening, watching Ethan and Nixera coordinate repairs, maybe we've been looking at this all wrong. Maybe peace starts not with treaties, but with trust. As the cruiser approached Earth's orbit weeks later, preparations for landing became a flurry of activity. News of their arrival had reached home, and the planet buzzed with anticipation and controversy. Media outlets debated endlessly about the implications of a human soldier falling in love with an alien princess, painting scenarios ranging from utopian harmony to apocalyptic conflict. For Ethan and Nixera, however, none of that mattered. They focused instead on the immediate future, presenting their case to Earth's leaders, ensuring safe passage for the remaining Zorathian delegates, and navigating the uncharted waters of their own relationship. When they finally stepped off the ship onto Earth's soil, the scene was surreal. Crowds gathered behind barricades, cheering and jeering in equal measure. Cameras flashed like strobe lights, capturing every step they took. At the forefront stood General Hargrove, Ethan's commanding officer, his expression unreadable. "Corporal Drake," Hargrove barked, stepping forward. "Explain yourself." Ethan straightened, meeting the general's gaze without flinching. "Sir, I fell in love. That's all there is to explain." A murmur rippled through the crowd, but before anyone could react further, Nixera stepped forward. Her voice rang clear and strong, silencing the noise. "General Hargrove, I understand your concerns, but I ask you to consider this. What greater testament to peace is there than two people choosing each other despite everything that divides them?" The silence that followed was profound. Then, unexpectedly, Hargrove cracked a grin. "Well, damn. Never thought I'd live to see the day." He extended a hand toward Nixera, which she shook firmly. "Welcome to Earth, Your Highness. Let's make history." Over the next several months, Ethan and Nixera worked tirelessly to build bridges between their worlds. Together, they addressed global assemblies, participated in cultural exchanges, and even collaborated on scientific projects aimed at advancing both species' understanding of the universe. Their efforts paid off. Public opinion shifted dramatically, and soon, talk of war gave way to dreams of collaboration. Through it all, their bond only grew stronger. On a crisp autumn evening, beneath a sky filled with stars, Ethan knelt before Nyxera in a secluded garden outside the United Nations headquarters. In his hand, he held a simple band crafted from materials native to both Earth and Zorathia, a symbol of unity. Nyxera, he began, his voice steady despite the lump in his throat. You've shown me that love isn't bound by borders, galaxies, or differences. Will you spend the rest of your life showing everyone else what we already know? Tears glistened in Nyxera's eyes as she nodded, pulling him into a fierce embrace. Yes, Ethan. Always. Their wedding ceremony was unlike anything the world or the galaxy had ever seen. Held in a massive amphitheater overlooking Earth's oceans, it blended human traditions with Zorathian rituals. As they exchanged vows under a shimmering canopy of bioluminescent flowers, cheers erupted from thousands of attendees, humans and aliens alike. Years passed, and Ethan and Nyxera built a life filled with joy and purpose. They settled in a sprawling estate nestled between rolling hills and sparkling lakes, where they welcomed a brood of children who inherited the best traits of both parents. Ethan's wit and resilience, Nyxera's grace and wisdom. Their eldest, a spirited girl named Lyra, dreamed of becoming a diplomat, while their youngest, a mischievous boy named Orion, showed a knack for tinkering with technology. Together, they traveled the stars, fostering alliances and spreading messages of hope. Wherever they went, they carried with them the proof that love could conquer even the greatest divides. And though challenges remained, conflicts, misunderstandings, and fears, they faced them side by side, united by a bond stronger than any force in the universe.